Bad deal, should have never been thought of. And where it should have stopped is at the deal standpoint, when they thought about it. And then they have cans of soup. And they throw the cans of soup. That's better than a brick because you can't throw a brick, it's too heavy. But a can of soup, you can really put some power into that, right? And then when they get caught, they say, no, this is soup from my family. They're so innocent. This is soup from my family. It's incredible. And you have people coming over with bags of soup, big bags of soup, and they lay it on the ground and the anarchists take it and they start throwing it at our cops, at our police. And if it hits you, that's worse than a brick because it's got force. It's the perfect size. It's like made perfect. And when they get caught, they say, no, this is just soup from my family. And then the media says, this is just soup. These people are very, very innocent. They're innocent people. Running against the worst candidate in the history of presidential politics puts pressure on me. Could you imagine if I lose my whole life? What am I going to do? I'm going to say, I lost to the worst candidate in the history of politics. I'm not going to feel so good. Maybe I'll have to leave the country. I don't know.
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
But I think the juxtaposition of that and the woman dancing in the shoe with the money flying at her, the juxtaposition of that versus some of the things that we've canceled recently, some of the things we have said are too dangerous to continue while we're talking about WAP, which stands for wet ass pussy, and she's got the bucket and the whole thing. Now again, I'm not saying that shouldn't be allowed. She's got a wet pussy. What are you going to do about it? So fine. But the strange way we deal with cancel culture, the strange way that the mainstream version of everything that we get is so out of whack with reality. So we took out Mr. Potato Head because he was a Mr. and now he's just Potato Head. He's got no gender, even though really his gender was only decided whether you put the mustache on him, although I'm pretty sure girls don't have mustaches now. And the point is that we get rid of all of these things and then we say, oh, but the woman with the leaking pussy and the bucket and the mop and the whole thing and the girl dancing in the shoe, that's all okay. Get rid of all of these things. But the woman with the leaking pussy, the woman with the leaking pussy, the leaking pussy, the leaking pussy and pussy and pussy, the leaking pussy, the leaking pussy, the leaking pussy, and the woman with the leaking pussy and the bucket and the mop and the whole thing and the girl dancing in the shoe.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by go. You know the thing. Kids jumping on my lap, and I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
I'm about to be 34 and I have no family.
And I have a simple proposition here. I'm here to ask you for your help. Where I come from, you don't get far unless you ask. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. Look me over. If you'd like to see help out, if not both the other way, give me a look though. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by go. You know the thing.
The world is actually a small piece of the universe, right?
But you have to go home now.
Hello, users, and welcome, goddamn, to another episodic installation of Above It Motherfucking All, featuring Max the dog. As you can see, he is a dog. That's a dog right there. So anyway, I was mining through, folks, the content mines this morning. I was thinking to myself, oh no? What content could I possibly come up with? Is it possible for me to be content with the amount of content on my show today? And the answer is yes, because apparently, according to reports, folks, Donald Trump just dropped an hour podcast with whoever the fuck this is. Never heard of her before. Her first episode is Donald Trump. How does that happen? How do I get Donald Trump on my first episode of my first podcast? How does that happen? I don't know. But folks, I'm deciding to waste an hour of my life, wasting an hour of your life, listening to this dumb fuck podcast. So let's get started. So this is introducing The Truth with Lisa Booth. You like that because of the rhyme? The Truth with Lisa Booth, folks. Again, this person somehow managed to score Donald Trump for her first podcast, right? So what is this going to be about?
Let's be honest, the mainstream media is broken. Groupthink, fake news, distrust, these are the words that I think about when I think about today's media. There are way too many journalists now that bow down to the pressures of political correctness instead of standing tall for the truth. And so many Americans are left not knowing who to trust in the noise of all of it. That's where I come in. Hey everyone, Lisa Booth here, and I am so excited to let you know that I'm launching a brand new podcast, The Truth, with Lisa Booth, starting March 24th. As a former pollster, political advisor, and now a television commentator.
So we were originally starting March 24th, and then someone called her up and was like, yo, if you want to come out 2 days earlier, I'll do you one better. You'll get the President of the United States on your show.
Okay? Your trust by telling you the truth. And I can make this promise to you right here, right now. I will always give it to you straight. And I guarantee that we're going to learn something new, and we'll also be entertained with each episode.
What is this?
Whether it's just me on air, leaving
I'm
no
leveling
stone
up
unturned,
right now.
it's the
What
bottom
the
of the
fuck?
hottest issues impacting your life, or whether I'm interviewing some of the biggest names out there, I will always think for myself. You should too. Look, you don't always have to agree with me, but if you're tired of being talked down to, this is your podcast. And if you're tired of hearing the same tired talking points and you want some fresh takes, this is also your podcast. If you want to know what's really happening in our country without the spin, without the BS, then this is a podcast for you. Listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth.
We get the freshest, most independent thinking takes from someone whose first episode is going to be interviewing the former president. The real independent thinkers are the ones interviewing presidents of the United States, right? But anyway, so she drops a podcast with Donald Trump. It's 55 minutes. I want to listen to it. It's apparently really funny. It just came out this morning. I'm breaking fucking news here, folks. So let's just listen.
Hey everyone, welcome to The
Why
Truth
is that
with
so
Lisa
loud?
Booth. This is my first podcast, my first episode, and I have a very special guest.
Do you miss me yet? Do you miss me yet?
I can't with this. I can't.
A lot of things going on.
That's right. President Donald J. Trump is joining me. Mr. President, so I was thinking today
Hello, main character.
about preparing for this interview, and it dawned on me that I am starting with the biggest name I could possibly get, so it's pretty much downhill from here.
Well, I think you're doing so great anyway, and when you asked, I want to do it with you. I turned down a lot of people, but I want to do it with you. I just appreciate everything you've done. You're really a professional, a great professional, and people have a lot of respect for you, Lisa. So thank you very much. It's an honor.
You know, I've been thinking about it. You know, a lot of your supporters right now, you know, we feel like no one's fighting for us in Washington, D.C.
All right, folks.
We're being maligned by the media.
The reason I decided to watch this podcast was apparently Donald Trump gets into some hot takes. Apparently some hot takes get into this. And so I also don't feel like looking through the news today. So I'm like, I'm watching this. This is fun for me. She is on Fox, apparently, according to reports. I've never heard of this person before. So, I don't know. But again, she's an independent thinker. And we all know that independent thinkers, what they do is they interview presidents of the United States and then basically agree with everything that they say. So, let's continue.
Maligned by the left, big tech has shut off your ability to communicate with your supporters. What's your message to them right now? What do you want to tell them?
Well, it is a very unfair situation. They go after us at every level, in the city and the states go after us. You know, I won in the federal, and all these Mueller investigations and all of the nonsense that went on. It turned out that it was Hillary Clinton. It turned out with Russia, Russia, and Ukraine, and the impeachment hoax #1 and #2. And, you do all that, and then you have the state and local stuff. They send it into them. It's a disgrace. I mean, honestly,
okay,
it's a disgrace.
I'm sorry. I have to do this. Okay, so the state and local stuff, and they sent it into them.
Their situation. They go after us at every level, in the city and the states go after us. I won in the federal, and all these Mueller investigations and all of the nonsense that went on. It turned out that it was Hillary Clinton. It turned out with Russia, Russia, and Ukraine, and the impeachment hoax #1 and #2. And, you do all that, and then you have the state and local stuff. They send it into them. It's a disgrace. I mean, honestly, it's a disgrace. It couldn't happen to a Democrat. And yet we keep fighting, and I think we're very effective. We had a great election, and we won, and they took it away. So
do you remember after he lost the election, and then he started pretending he won for like months and months? And then the January 6th riot happened, and he kind of just stopped talking publicly until he left the White House. I guess, like, now he's just going out there and saying that he won again. Now, like, he just took a couple months off, let the smoke clear on the Capitol riot, which killed 6 people and injured 140 more, right? Just let the smoke clear, and now I guess he won again. So he won, then he lost, then nothing, and then he won, I guess, or something. I don't know.
Rigged election. Because, as you know, we won the first one, but we did much better in the second one. So people always say, oh, what do you mean you did better? I said, we did much better, almost 75 million votes, and that's the votes that we know about. And it was really a terrible thing. I mean, it was really an unfair thing to the people that support us. So what's happened has been, people have seen some silence, but actually, if you take a look at what's happened over the last period of time, we're sending out releases. They're getting picked up much better than any tweet. And I'm doing things having to do with putting our own platform out there that you'll be hearing about soon. But
so this is why I found this in the news this morning. Is Donald Trump is apparently going to be doing his own news platform. Which is really interesting. I will sign up for that news platform. I will be on that news platform. I will advertise my show on that platform. So we'll see what happens. I have been banned from every single pro-Trump social media website that's existed so far, except for Gab, which I don't think they ban anybody. They actually stick to that. But I've been banned from the Donald. I've been banned from Patriot.win. I've been banned from all that stuff. So we'll see if I get banned from Trump.com or whatever.
And more importantly than that,
anything you can tell me about that?
Well, I'll be telling you pretty soon. But when I put out a statement, it's much more elegant than a tweet, and I think it gets picked up better. You're seeing that. We put out statements from the president, et cetera, and it's getting picked up by everybody. Everything we say. So if I endorse somebody, because we're endorsing some very good people, and if I endorse somebody, it gets tremendous pickup. I would almost say better than a tweet. Now, it goes on Twitter, because thousands of people pick it up and they put it on Twitter and they put it on Facebook. They put it.
I love how Donald Trump is just explaining his strategy here. Like, yeah, he uses his press releases to form 280 character messages, and then they get posted on Twitter. I wonder how. Twitter loves them, right?
So we're really having the voices. I think I think it's been very big. I've only started doing that over the last 3 or 4 weeks, but it's the voices out there. I think maybe in a certain way, maybe as big as ever.
I've been reading the releases that you've been putting out, but you'd mentioned earlier about sort of the control, the way that the left goes after conservatives, but it's kind of scary right now because they essentially control every institution in the country. They've got the federal government right now. They control big tech.
So again, I just want to provide some sort of commentary here. So this whole thing, what he does here is he always kind of twists and turns this back into the left. It's left versus right, and right is obviously right, lol, correct. And so the left is everyone that disagrees with me. So Hillary Clinton, warmonger, right? Someone who's probably responsible for the deaths of quite a couple people, right? She's the left, right? That ice cream truck, down the street, the guy that works in there during the summer, he's the left because we disagreed on baseball once. My uncle who, participated in Iraq only to be able to shoot people, right? And just did it for fun and then has, abuses his wife and has, that guy's the left. Anyone that disagrees with me on any capacity is the left. So Joe Biden, right? Even though he goes up there and bombs countries, killing innocent people, he's the left. Right? And this whole thing is just to conflate the idea that anyone that disagrees with you on anything is a leftist. And because there's so many goddamn leftists out there, because everyone disagrees with you on a lot, right? You have a lot of people disagreeing with you on many things, so therefore, the whole world's full of leftists. Yeah, sure, some of them don't even know who Karl Marx is. Most of them don't even like communism, but they're all the left, right? Joe Biden, famous leftist, right? So it's extremely funny.
Control the corporations. They're basically controlling the flow of information to the American people. At one point we had the House, we had the Senate, we had you in the White House. Why didn't we rein in big tech when we had that chance?
Well, they should have done it. Section 230, they should have done it. They didn't do it. And now all of a sudden the Democrats are being their protector. They were never their protector. They hated big tech. But now they're the protector because, they figure they're getting the advantage in big tech. But if you look at what happened at the election, Mitch McConnell should have fought. He did nothing. He should have fought. They would have fought. That could never have happened to a Democrat. What happened to us with the presidential election could never have happened to the Democrats. You would have had.
Well, it actually did happen in 2016. Hillary Clinton won. I know this is unpopular news to remind everyone of. Hillary Clinton won the 2016 election. She got more votes than the opposition. The Democratic candidate in 2016, Hillary Clinton, got more votes than the Republican candidate, Donald Trump. She won the election. Literally, by all measures, won the election. If this election were to have happened in any country on earth besides the United States, she would have been the winner. Right, but because of our stupid-ass, dumb-fuck electoral college system, they managed to fucking pull the rug out and just become president anyway. So we have to understand that. The same thing that happened in 2000 happened in 2016. It was, you won the election with losing the votes. It's bizarre. Right, so something that's actually you can make an argument for, she got more votes, she should be president, right? I can understand why people feel cheated in 2016. 2020, on the other hand, what? Donald Trump lost the Electoral College and lost the election by a lot. Fucking Joe Biden got 7 million more votes. It's not even close. It's not even close. Right now, it was close in some states like Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, that kind of stuff. It was close in a couple states for sure. Right? But come on, these are two different things. So, but again, Donald Trump won the 2016 election, I guess, according to reports, right?
Revolution. If the tables were turned, you would have literally had a revolution. And guys like Mitch McConnell, they don't fight. And now he's hanging by a thread. Did
you talk to him at all?
Not really. I don't really want to talk to him. Look, he's hanging by a thread right now.
Oh my God, wait, what was that?
With respect, literally had a revolution. And guys like Mitch McConnell, they don't fight. And now he's hanging by a thread. Did you
talk to him at all?
Not really. I don't really want to talk to him. Look.
Oh my God! Yeah, that was funny. this Mitch McConnell, he's hanging by a thread. Do you talk to Mitch McConnell? Not really. I don't want to talk to him. That's really funny. I gotta listen to that again.
They did. If the tables were turned, you would have literally had a revolution. And guys like Mitch McConnell, they don't fight. And now he's hanging by a thread. He's hanging by a thread.
Do you talk to him at all?
Not really. I don't really want to talk to him. Look, he's hanging by a thread right now with respect to the filibuster. And if they get the he's hanging on Joe Manchin, who always goes with the Democrats. Joe talks, but he ends up going with the Democrats. And a very, decent senator, I must say, from the great state of Arizona, okay? But he's hanging by a thread. And if they get the filibuster, if they knock it out, it will be catastrophic for the Republican Party.
So notice that Donald Trump is now weighing in on the filibuster and complimenting Senator Sinema. That's weird. That's weird. Why is Donald Trump, former Republican president, complimenting Arizona Democrat Kyrsten Sinema? Whoa, right?
Very, decent senator, I must say, from the great state of Arizona, okay? But he's hanging by a thread. And if they get the filibuster, if they knock it out, it will be catastrophic for the Republican Party. Now, there is one thing that you can do, not show up. If the Republicans don't show up, in other words, there's no vote. As I understand it, with 50-50, as I understand it, the vice presidential vote doesn't count in that case, so they can't get that through. Now, I don't even know if if the Senate knows that, if you want to know the truth. But if they don't show up, Lisa, I hear that you can't take a vote. It doesn't work. So that's a.
Does anyone know what this means? Because it's possible that Donald Trump knows like a secret trick, right? It's possible, but also this is the same guy that thought Mike Pence could just give him the election. So who knows what this guy's talking about?
That because they can't allow. If they knock out the filibuster, they cannot allow this to happen. The things that they're going to attack the Second Amendment violently, which I've told everybody. They're going to attack. Yeah, they're going to attack the Supreme Court. Wouldn't it be interesting? The Supreme Court has done absolutely nothing for us in terms of the election. They haven't done what they should have done. Wouldn't it be ironic if they stacked the court? It would be rather ironic.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of control they want to have over the country is pretty terrifying. I mean, you look at things like H.R. 1. But I want to talk to you about the border crisis and what's going on there. They obviously refuse to call it a border crisis. But the U.S. is on pace right now to stop more migrants crossing the border than in the last 20 years. You had immigration under control. You had the Remain in Mexico policy. You were putting up a wall. You were not doing catch and release, which is something Joe Biden is doing now. So you had it handled. Is there any advice that you would like to give Joe Biden on how he should be handling
this? Is the other thing that's like the fantasy world, right? This is the absolute fantasy world. In reality, the border has not really changed much. It's gotten slightly worse because there's more people immigrating to the country, and the problem is the policies haven't changed much, right? That's the reality of the situation, right? Their fucking whole thing was that they wanted to change immigration policy. They just chose kind of not to at the last minute, the Biden people. Right, and they just forgot about the kids in cages. Whoops, I forgot that was the thing I cared about the most 2 years ago, and I just completely forgot all of a sudden. Right, so really in reality, the policy hasn't changed much. So how come when Donald Trump has a crisis at the border, he's a strong man, he's killing them immigrants, right? But when Biden does and actually tries a little bit, but not really, but just says so in a press release once to fix something somewhere along the line. I don't know where, I haven't seen it yet, but he's trying something apparently, right? All of a sudden the crisis is 15 times worse. I don't know, it's completely fantasy world. It's completely manufactured, and I really just don't get it. But let's listen to the spin.
The immigration crisis right now.
Well, finish the wall. Don't forget, we were delayed 2.5 years
Sinema
with litigation
was
from the
apparently a Green
Democrats,
Party
from Nancy
person,
Pelosi in Congress. We were getting sued by the Democrats. I mean, literally by Nancy Pelosi. And we won those cases, but we wasted 2.5 years. Despite that, the wall is just about finished. Just little sections of the wall. Contractors are essentially paid, and they should finish the wall. It's a very little. You could finish it in a month. And it's impossible that they're not. It's just crazy that they're not finishing the wall. So that's one piece of advice. And then you have to go back to you have to remain.
And then
in
okay,
Mexico.
so there's the other fantasy world where the wall was so close to being done. It's not like there was like one sample piece somewhere that like fell over 3 times. No. The wall was like on the cusp of completion. And then now it's all coming down. It's like, what?
So, Mexico and I had a very good relationship.
What?
I must say, we had I have a lot of respect and like for the president of Mexico. They had their soldiers, while we were building the wall, they had 27,000 soldiers guarding the wall, guarding our border. And they did a very good job, I must tell you. They don't have the restrictions that we have. They did a very, very good job. But we had it to a level that they say it has never been. We got rid of all sorts of things, including catch and release, all sorts of horrible things that we had to live with. We got rid, and they remain in Mexico. Right now, they're remaining in the United States, and they're never going to leave. And we have no idea who these people are. But I can tell you, when countries send people up, and they do send them up.
So, okay, how about this? We have no idea who these people are. If these people are just we just got to figure out who they are, then you know what we would do? We would have an open border that checks people's documents, tracks them, and gives them citizenship. That's what we would do. Let the fuckers walk in, give them citizenship cards, right? Have them fucking get hard-working, tax-paying jobs, and then we can track them. It's not that goddamn difficult. The reason why you can't track migrants is because the fucking border crossing is made a criminal offense, and they're afraid to fucking cross the border legally because the legal process is such a disaster, so they're afraid to do so legally. Right? Like, I just don't understand. They create these problems that are the real problems, and then the only solution is a left-wing approach, but then they just pretend like there is no solution. And then so I guess we just have to hate all immigrants or something. What?
When they send them up, they're not sending up their finest. Okay?
The
they're
finest.
Not sending up their finest.
Of course.
You have some very good people coming up, but you have some really bad ones coming too. Really dangerous criminals coming up. And we're allowing them to come right into our country. It's insane. And it's nothing compared to what it's going to be over the coming months. When you see it now, enjoy it, because it's much better now. When you see it in 2 or 3 months, because they're just starting to come, they'll be coming up by the millions. And we have no idea. I mean, forgetting even about COVID.
I'm sorry. Hold up. I gotta play this clip. This is a classic.
Everybody comes in your grandmother. Everybody comes in your grandmother, your father, your mother, your brother, your cousins.
They're coming in your grandmother, folks. I don't know what to tell you. I didn't say it. Trump did.
And no testing, no nothing. I mean, we're trying to get rid, because we came up with a vaccine. We're going to be hopefully in good shape in the not too distant future. But these people, they're not being tested, nothing. But they're also, as I said before, you have some very bad hombres coming up, and we're taking them into our country, and it's insane. They're destroying our country, Lisa. They're destroying our country.
Well, and it's happening so fast. And for those at home who don't, the Remain in Mexico policy was such a smart thing, because essentially...
I'm sorry, I can't. I have to go back. Really,
what happened?
I fucking very bad hombres, man.
And we're taking them into our country, and it's insane. They're destroying shape in the not too distant future. But these people, they're not being tested, nothing. But they're also, as I said before, you have some very bad hombres coming up, and we're taking them into our country, and it's insane. They're destroying our country, Lisa. They're destroying our country.
Well, and it's happening so fast. And for those at home who don't, the Remain in Mexico policy was such a smart thing, because essentially what happened was Central American asylum seekers, they remained in Mexico instead of coming into the United States, because what was happening, and Mr. President, this is why you did this, which was so wise. What was happening is these individuals were coming here, passing that initial interview, and then getting lost in the population of illegal immigrants living here. So they're using that as an opportunity to get in and then disappear. So that was so smart that you did, and you threatened with tariffs, and you got Mexico to step up to the plate. But there's also this.
Or we could have just given them citizenship and then had a way to track them, or just let them feel safe in our country. Say, hey, give us an address that you'll be staying at, and then if we need to go check up on you, we will, instead of making them afraid of us, and then so that they have to hide in the country. Would that make, maybe just a little bit more sense?
In January and February, border authorities encountered more than 15,000 unaccompanied minors. A migrant facility in Donna, Texas was at 729% of its pandemic capacity this month. Are Joe Biden's immigration policies inhumane?
Well, they are inhumane. And what's happened is people that are living in their countries, and that's where they've been, and in many cases, that's where they ultimately want to go back to, if you can believe it. But people living in their countries are coming in. And these are not just countries in South America, Latin America. These are now countries where you look at the Middle East. We have Middle Easterners coming in. We know nothing about them. We have things happening and we had it in such good control 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And then he made the statement that you want to come in, and everybody just started marching up. And the countries had a lot to do with it. So one of the things I did was, it was impossible to bring them back to Guatemala, Honduras, and San Salvador. And you couldn't bring them back. You couldn't get them back no matter what. And what happened is I said, look, how much money do we pay? We paid those countries $500 million a year. I stopped payment, and all of a sudden they took them back. In other words, we'd capture MS-13. And if you take a look at El Salvador as an example,
wouldn't it make more sense to maybe, I don't know, end the drug war so that, cartels weren't smuggling drugs into our country? What's a drug? Oh, it's just a random thing we saw on the side of the street that we said, oh, that should be illegal now, I guess. That's really what the fucking drug is. Like, oh, we should make this plant illegal. Okay, well, you're going to have people who want to do it anyway, and therefore, that's not going to fix the problem. Right? So I don't know, all of these problems, that's why this border crisis fantasy is such a fantastical thing. All of these problems could be fixed in literally a snap of a finger. You stop the fucking drug war, so there's no more power in the cartels, they can't smuggle anything, gangs are depowered, right? And then you just decriminalize border crossing. Let people come into the country, get an address, get a fucking, citizenship program that doesn't take 13 trillion fucking years. It's not that hard. I don't know.
And other countries too. They wouldn't take them back. So I stopped payment. As soon as I stopped payment, they gladly took them back. Nobody's ever done that before. Nobody ever talks about it because, how simple is it? But nobody's ever done it. So I stopped paying the $500 million a year to the three countries, the triangle as we call them. I stopped paying it. Once I stopped paying it, they said, we'll take them back. They would literally round them up before me. They would round them up, bring them to Honduras, bring them to Guatemala, and they would say, turn around, we're not taking them back. Now they take them back, but now they're not going to again. So he's paying, and we don't get anything for it. We give them a lot of money, and we get nothing but disrespect. And we had it down to an absolute science. It was a beautiful thing to see.
An absolute
frankly,
science.
What's happened? And even Mexico, I said, look, if we don't make a deal and if you don't help us out, we're going to have to put tariffs on all of the products that you sell to the United States, because they have a big surplus with the United States. So we're going to have to put a tariff on. As soon as I said that, they were great.
The creepy blonde lady from the Blair Wood debate supposedly used to drive for the cartels and is in recovery. What does in recovery mean? Because that sounds pretty badass. So is she in badass recovery? She's trying to unbadass? She's trying to good ass or something? But yeah, no, this is a really good interview. I have to say, this is a greatest hits montage. I'm glad he's back.
We had a great relationship with Mexico and the other countries because they didn't want to have either tariffs imposed or they wanted to get some of the money. And I also gave them back less, but we gave them, we stopped payment on all of that money that was pouring in, and all of a sudden they took the MS-13 people back, and they took the people that we wanted out of our country back. So people don't talk about that. They never talk about that, but that's what happened, and we never had it so good. And, when they release them in our country, they go into our country, we never find them again. They never come back, okay? They never come back. A very tiny percentage comes back. They say, we're going to release you in the country and you'll come back in 2 years for a legal case. That's the end of them. Very few people show up. It's ridiculous. So we had a...
So there's actually, because he said the same thing. Remember this moment in the debate?
Only the really
I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ.
Remember that moment in the debate? He was actually talking about those with the lowest IQ come back. And then there was like a study that came out that said like something around 90-something% of people show up for the court dates. And the people that don't show up for the court dates are mostly because they didn't have a translator and didn't understand where to go, or couldn't like have public transit, or didn't have the money to actually transit to the actual court. And like, you know, when they follow into those things, if they just provided them the basic transportation and the ability to show up, they would show up. So this is just a complete fiction. It's just fantasy world. This guy lives in a fantasy world. And you have to understand, it's like there are millions of people going to watch this. Millions. Like at least like 50 million people will hear something from this interview and think, he's fighting for us. And that's what you have to understand. Like, this is just like, this is funny. This is like, you know, look at the podcast wars. But no, this is serious, man. There's people out there that go there. And then it's on Fox News. The border crisis. The border crisis. It's like, what crisis, dude? What the fuck? What?
Thing where we keep them in Mexico. We got upheld in the courts, meaning positively. So all of these people were staying in Mexico. What that did is it forced Mexico not to let them in on their northern border. So they wouldn't let them in. So it was sort of working for everybody. And then these people came along and they just ended everything. And now they're going to be flowing in by the millions. Already started very substantially. Nobody's ever seen it as bad as it is now. It's really good compared to what it will be in a few months.
We certainly don't see the same pressure from the media, the same sort of lies that they were telling about your immigration policies being applied to, you know, the Biden administration here. But no, I wanted to ask you. You had mentioned COVID earlier, so you know it's been over a year since the 15 days to slow the spread, and Dr. Fauci has drawn the ire of a lot of conservatives like me, and also like Senator Rand Paul. We've seen a lot of his exchanges in the Senate with Dr. Fauci. You know, he's flip-flopped on masks. He was wrong about the travel bans. He basically told us at the beginning to not worry about COVID. Do you regret ever elevating him?
Well, I didn't really elevate him. He's been there for 40 years. He's been there forever.
Oh, my God.
And I thought rather than firing him, you know, I listened to him, but I didn't do what he said because, frankly, his record is not a good record. I like him personally. He's actually a nice guy. He's a great promoter. He's really a promoter more than anything else. And I think he's, you know, I always say he's a better pitcher of a baseball than he is at what he does because he was wrong so much. If I would have listened to him, first of all, he said no masks. And very importantly, he didn't want to have China stop from coming in. If we would have done that, we would have had hundreds of thousands of more deaths in our country. And if you
Charlie Walker in the chat, aren't you from fucking Europe, bro? Like, aren't you in like fucking the United Kingdom? Like, who the fuck why are you in my chat room talking about the border crisis, dude? Aren't you in the fucking United Kingdom?
Look at what we've done. You know, we don't get fair publicity, but what we've done, we've supplied, you know, the cupboards were bare. We had nothing from the previous administration, and we got all of the gowns and all of the masks and all of the if you take a look at the machinery, the equipment that you need, it's massive. We took care of everything, and we really did a great job, but we stopped so many. But the big thing that I did is the vaccine, because the vaccine, you know, a lot of people expected we were going to lose 2.2 million people. And it's going to be a number substantially lower than that. But the big thing that I did for the world, not only is I went to the FDA, I said, fellas, it's over. This is going to go fast. It would have taken 5 years for another president. A guy like Biden would have taken 5 years for the vaccine to be approved. And it would have never been approved. I think they would have had it. It would have, you know, it goes from 5
I just
to 12
like, okay,
years.
so Trump went from the virus isn't real, don't wear a mask, to the vaccine is real, take the vaccine for the virus I just told you wasn't real. By the way, this next guy, if he were in charge, something. What? Like, what? I just like the fucking,
I got it
so
done
good.
in 9 months. And they did not like me. I will tell you that. They did not like me. And statutorily, they had to do things a certain way. I ended all. I said, we need the vaccine. We got it done in 9 months. I mean, they disliked me so much that it was approved like 2 days after the election because they could. And by the way, the only one that dislikes me more are the drug companies because what I did with favored nations and everything else. If Biden keeps my policies, drug prices will come way down to the lowest in the world. We'll be tied. Because of favored nations, that means we will match the lowest price in the world, which is much lower for the exact same drug or the exact same pill. So the drug companies took...
Reminder, by the way, that what is a pill? What is a drug? It is a chemical composition, right? It's just a combination of multiple different chemicals and, different things that, we can mass produce if we wanted to. We're in the 21st century. We can build a factory and we can mass produce a fucking vaccine literally with the snap of a finger, right? Everyone on this earth could be vaccinated probably in a couple weeks if we really wanted to, if there was actually the impetus to do so. If this were as deadly and as easily transmittable and as infinitely deadly as Ebola, for example, I feel like that would have maybe been closer to happening, or maybe they would have just let everyone die. Who knows? But I like to think about the good things in life. And so the idea that oh yeah, the vaccine and the drug companies, and we are paying the drug companies and they were making money, and then now they're not making. Who gives a fuck if the drug companies are making money, bro? Who gives a shit? As far as I'm concerned, those in the drug companies should be sent to jail. Didn't Trump campaign on breaking up big pharma and ending big drug company loopholes? What? But nope. I forgot about that. Whoops. And now the vaccine, and now I'm a businessman or something? What?
Millions of dollars of advertisements against us, against me. And, but I had to do what was right. Nobody else would have done favored nations against the drug companies. So if they leave that in place, and I did other things like transparency and other things, but, the people, I know the people love it. The problem is they won't see it for a little while. If they allow my policies to stay, we'll have tied for the lowest drug prices anywhere in the world. It'll be great. But Fauci's been so wrong, so has Birx. They've been so wrong. And if I would have listened to them, and then they went to the other extreme, like the entire country should lock up. I didn't go for that. And, it just wasn't for me. I didn't go for that. And
it just wasn't for me. Yeah, the idea of following safety guidelines, wasn't really for me. It's not my thing. Meanwhile, by the way, he stayed in the White House, and remember he went to the bunker during the summer, remember all this and that, and he always tried to be as safe as possible. And then there was that point where the rallies, he started doing the rallies again, and he's fuck it, we're just gonna do it live. And then Herman Cain died, and then so forth and so on, right? But yeah, it just wasn't for me. There's a pandemic, and we could just send use the USPS to send masks to every household, and it wasn't really for me. Nope. This reminds me of this classic moment in human history.
You're dying. That's true. And it is what it is.
They're dying. It's true.
Governors like Ron DeSantis, who's done a great job, and in Texas, as they've done a really good job, and in South Dakota, but many, many places, I allowed them to keep open if they want. If they want to, the ones that shut down are the ones that are doing the worst. You look at New York, you look at California. The ones that shut down are the ones the states that have done the worst. It's sort of amazing, to be honest, if you look at it. But they've done really terribly. They've ruined their economies. They've ruined their states. And their numbers aren't better. In fact, their numbers are worse than the ones that have been much more open.
We're talking with the 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, on the truth.
And actually,
that red tape, those public-private partnerships, but now you've got Joe Biden trying to take credit for your work that you got done with the vaccine with Operation Warp Speed.
Well,
Operation Warp Speed, folks.
He is trying to take credit for the vaccines, and actually even his liberal friends didn't give him. They're saying you better cut back on that. It's not. He actually said that on January 20th we didn't have any vaccines, and yet he got his shots on December 21st. He got his shot on December 21st. So I don't know if that was a bad moment.
Why does Donald Trump love the S word so much? He says shot all the time. He enunciates it. Remember that one time he put out a press release and he put shot in quotes? What is with his obsession in the word shot?
Liberal friends didn't give him. They're saying you better cut back on that. It's not. He actually said that on January 20th we didn't have any vaccines, and yet he got his shots on December 21st.
Wait, there's comments on this page? I don't see any comments.
He got his shot on December 21st. So I don't know if that was a bad moment or what it was. I don't know if he meant that. But we had given millions of shots by that time, and we were up to 1.3 million shots a day. That was better than many of his days. Don't forget, as it gets put out there, you get more and more. I mean, just naturally, But we had a great Operation Warp Speed was amazing. But we came up with a vaccine during my administration in 9 months instead of 5 years or longer. And, there were many people, even people that aren't necessarily fans of mine, that say that was maybe one of the most important things ever done in this world. Because this is beyond our country. This is, a worldwide incredible thing.
Okay, so when Biden isn't sharing vaccines with the world, Biden's evil and it's a worldwide pandemic. But when Trump is in charge and Trump has the lowest drug prices and he's making everyone pay shit fucking dollars for the vaccine in the U.S. and we're getting a good deal, having the best deal in the world is more important. When Trump's in office, when Biden's in office, this is the world problem. Now Trump's a globalist or something? Like, what the fuck?
And so the vaccines have been really... I think you'll see that more and more as time goes by. They've been a something that's very special. Interestingly, in 1917, you had the Spanish flu. It killed anywhere from 50 to 100 million people. We could have been the same thing because this thing is really, not only is it devastating, it's so easily spread. It spreads so quickly, as you know. And, we could have been, if we didn't have a vaccine, it just, didn't go away. Even now you see in Europe, remember where they used to compare us to Europe and there's so many, Germany well, look at how badly they're doing. They're having a hard time right now. They're having a tremendously hard time in Europe. But I'm sure you remember when they say, Germany was doing better or somebody else is doing better. Not only are we doing well, but our recovery is much faster than anybody else. We're the fastest to recover of anybody, because we built a foundation that was so strong. So
we're the fastest to recover of anybody, except that's not true. Look at New Zealand, look at Vietnam, for example. Right? Look at, Canada and Mexico. They're look at fucking people in Europe. We are not the fastest to recover. We haven't recovered. In fact, we're, right now in almost the worst situation imaginable sans a couple months ago. So we're not recovering, but Trump is pretending like the virus is over. He's pretending like everyone's got the vaccine and we recovered when that's not true. What is this fantasy world?
It's been a great honor, I have to tell you that. And we've saved... tens of millions of lives. When they try and give everybody a hard time, you're over 500,000. We've saved tens of millions of lives with the vaccine.
Looking ahead to the midterms, how big of a role do you plan on having?
The fact that I give somebody an endorsement has meant the difference between a victory and a massive defeat. And I was 122-2 in the last cycle, 122-2 with the endorsement. I mean, think of that. And the two were people that, frankly, I did that as favors. There were people that, couldn't, it wasn't going to happen. And now...
Oh my God. Listen to this one. Frankly, it just wasn't going to happen.
Cycle, 122-2 with the endorsement. I mean, think of that. And the two were people that, frankly, I did that as favors. There were people that, couldn't, it wasn't going to happen. And now everybody, the senators, they're all wanting endorsements. All of the senators are wanting endorsements, other than a couple where they'd like them too. But Murkowski's bad news. A guy like Ben Sass, little Ben Sass, he's a disaster for the party.
Little Ben Sass, folks.
He came up. He was so nice to me for 2 years. Came up with Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz to see me. He was so nice, because started off nasty, then he became so nice. He just wanted the endorsement. When I gave him the endorsement, he's a Republican. I gave him the endorsement, and he ended up getting the nomination. Somebody would have run against him in Nebraska, would have beaten him so easy. But he would have gotten beaten so easily. So what happened, he gets the nomination, and after he gets the nomination, he gets a little bit sassy again. The guy's a loser. But we have
he gets a little
people
bit
like
sassy
Murkowski.
again.
I don't think she's going to do very well. But we have a lot. But he would have gotten beaten so easily. So what happened, he gets the nomination, and after he gets the nomination, he gets a little bit sassy again. The guy's a loser. But we have, people like Murkowski. I don't think she's going to do very well. But we have a lot of people that are going to do very well. And I'm giving endorsements, and I'm endorsing people that have been good for us and good for the Republican Party and that have voted our way. And if they've said something a little bit off color with respect to me, I can handle that if they voted our way. So I'm endorsing some people that I think have been very good, and they're all going to win.
I can handle that. That's actually a pretty good strategy. Because a lot of Republicans did do a trial run in January 6th, 7th, and 8th. A trial run of like, can I like distance myself from Trump? And then everyone like called their office and were like, no, you can't. Trump is the God Emperor. And they're like, okay, never mind. Right, so like Trump is just basically saying, as long as you're back on board, it's all good, buddy. That's interesting.
People right now that you think are part of the future of the Republican Party, like those people that, you know, you're supportive of, that you just really like and you think are doing good things.
Well, I think we have a lot of people. We have a lot of young, good people. Ron DeSantis is doing a really good job in Florida, and I think Josh Hawley has shown some real courage in going after big tech. You know, they go after him. Josh is terrific, and somebody that's been really terrific is Ted Cruz. Over the last, he and I had it out for a while. Actually, we were very close, even during the campaign, and then it got nasty. The press would say, when's the nastiness going to start? I said, don't worry, it'll start. And then it got very, very, rather violent and vicious. But then it simmered down, and he's been great. And Rand Paul has been great. A lot of people, really a lot of people have been terrific. Sarah Huckabee is going to do great in Arkansas.
Sarah Huckabee.
I think that Kristi Noem has done a terrific job. A lot of very good people. Really very good people. The Republican Party is stacked.
If you don't end up running in 2024, which I know a lot of people want you to, we all want you to.
Here we go, folks.
If it's not you, who is it?
So some of the names I guess I just mentioned, perhaps, and others. There's a pretty deep bench. I'll make that decision sometime later. But there's a pretty deep bench. If you look at the polls, but they love the job that I've done. We had a 97% approval. The CPAC, a 97% approval.
Yeah, 97% approval. Like, that's like saying, you know what? Furries. They're super popular at the furry convention. Yeah, at the furry convention, everyone loves furries there. It's like, what? I'm not trying to pick on furries here. But that's like going to fucking like a gamer convention, an anime convention. It's like, yeah, do you love anime? Woo! Like, yeah, no shit they're gonna fucking love anime. They traveled, spent thousands of dollars on hotels to go to a fucking anime convention. No fucking shit they're gonna love anime. So the fact that, like, CPAC's fucking, do you agree with conservative policies? 97%. No shit! No shit, jackass! No fucking shit, you fuck! Baku, can you tell these dumb motherfuckers to hold the goddamn phone? Like, seriously, man? Come on?
On policies and different things. Now, I have to say it's pretty easy when you look at the border and you look at what's happening. But I will say this, if you also look at other networks, they're not covering the border properly. They're making it a very small story relative to what it is. You take a look at what's happening. They're not covering it. They don't cover the negative having to do with Biden and the Democrats. They don't cover negative things. You know that. You saw that happen during the campaign. It is so, we don't have a free press. This is not a free press. This is a press that we have to be very, very smart to get around. But they don't cover bad things if it happens to be bad for Democrats. It's pretty amazing. You take a look at some of the coverage and some of the travesty that's taking place on the border, and the coverage is not commensurate. If you look at NBC, ABC, CBS, and of course CNN and MSDNC, if you look at those, networks, it's just not covered. It's covered so little. It's amazing, and it's a massive story because it's going to destroy. It's going to destroy our country. I won in 2016. I won because of the border. In 2020, we didn't use the border, but I got many more votes than I got in 2016. Figure that one out. They said if I get 66 million votes, you can't lose. So I got almost 75 million votes. But I don't view that as a loss. I view that as people know what happened there. It's a disgrace, like a third world country. But and it's too bad. But I think we've got a lot of great people.
So he lost the election. It's a third world country. What does that mean? It's a third world country. Like, I would love to ask Donald Trump what third world country means. Like, what is their definition of a third world country? Oh, it has poor infrastructure. USA, check. Oh, they don't have medical care for their citizens. USA, check. Oh, there's a lot. It's the potholes. USA, check. the winner of the elections loses. Well, 2016, 2000, USA, check. Like, what is a third world country that does not exclusively apply to the United States at the at the absence of other countries? What is happening in a third world country that's not happening in the United States, that isn't like worse off in the United States? A lot of these third world countries have health care for their citizens. A lot of so what does this mean? Like, it doesn't mean anything. And he only just says that because he doesn't want to name off specific countries, so it's just like the ethereal, what could it possibly be? It's just
Republican Party.
Well, yeah, and the media was more unfair to you than they have ever been. Well, they're not even a media anymore. You're right. I mean, they're all biased, left-wing hacks. It's essentially propagandists for the left. But I know a lot of people are wondering, because it's not just the media who really unfairly targeted you. It's also the DOJ. It's also the FBI. I mean, they spied on you using the phony dossier, which the CIA dismissed as an internet rumor, but it was good enough for them.
I wish I knew the phony dossier. What the fuck? I wish I knew what any of this meant. I genuinely wish I knew anything about... There's the phony dossier and the report and the investigation. It's like, what the fuck are they talking about? To me, it sounds like when people are talking about, Marvel movies or the Avengers or something. It's like, oh yeah, Batman and then fucking Wonder Woman flew through the sky and caught the bad guy. I don't, know what the fuck that means. Sometimes, or when someone's describing a reality TV show like The Bachelor, and it's like, oh, he did that, and then she went whoa. I don't know what the fuck that means. So that's, on the same level of this shit. It's I have no fucking clue what the hell that means.
To take it to court and obtain FISA warrants against Carter Page. Are we ever going to see the Durham report? Is there ever going to be any accountability?
It is so sad that took so long. There was no reason, because if you took the Horowitz report, that's all they needed. They didn't even need another report. It is a very sad thing to see. Now let's see what happens. But when you can't have a report given in our administration, why would it have to come into this administration? It is a very very sad thing. Just take a look at that Horowitz report. I give it a lot of respect for him. What he did.
Who is
to come
Horowitz?
Out with that report.
Who is this?
He was appointed by Obama. He came out with a report that was so scathing on McCabe and then so scathing on Comey that even the New York Times wrote an article and an editorial on Comey that was just horrendous. And they didn't have to go there. They didn't have to even appoint Durham. All they had to do is take the information they already had. There's so much information as to corruption. So much information. Else, but they come after Republicans. No, it's very deep. It's a deep state, and it's very, very deep.
Is there anything you can tell us about the deep state that we don't know?
Well, just that it does exist, and it is vicious.
Right,
it's
does
vicious.
Exist.
Right. And it's against Republicans. It's
right.
And it's been there for many years.
So the deep state exists. It's against Republicans. That's why we had Ronald Reagan, then Ronald Reagan again, and then H-dubs, and then a Republican Democrat, and then a Republican again, and then a Republican again, and then we had another Republican Democrat, and another Republican Democrat, and then Donald Trump. Because they hate Republicans so much, they hate conservative values so much, that they have tilted and manufactured a deep state that is somehow more Republican and more conservative than the actual Republican Party in a lot of instances. What the fuck are they talking about, man? Who's Carter Page, the Durham Report, Horowitz? What the fuck? Is this a fucking new movie coming out? Can I watch it? Is it on Netflix?
It's hard to root out. You root out some of it, and some of the people did a great job in rooting it out, and some of the people didn't do a good job in rooting it out. But when you look at some of the things that they didn't do, they should be embarrassed, because so much information was learned. We did a great job in finding the crime. We found many, many crimes. Hey, look, the Ukraine thing was a hoax.
We found many, many crimes. By the way, gonna quickly change the subject. What?
The Mueller deal was a big hoax, and the real thing with Mueller, you saw what happened. It was the Democrats.
Right.
And then you look at how many people got away with so many different things. It's truly hard to believe. And That's why there's anger in this country, because the people get it. There's tremendous anger in our country because the people get it. They get it better than anybody else. They get it. The public gets it. And they get what happened in the election, too. The election was a disgrace. They didn't go to the legislature for approval. Just if you look at that, the Supreme Court should be ashamed of themselves. Now, Justice Thomas and Justice Alito, I'm going to take them out because they really, they felt obviously.
Whoa! I'm going to take them out. Oh, whoa! Is that a death threat?
What? Just if you look at that, the Supreme Court should be ashamed of themselves. Now, Justice Thomas and Justice Alito, I'm going to take them out because they really, they. Is
this like, is he playing The Sims or something?
Happened. But the Supreme Court should be ashamed of themselves. If you just take a look, forgetting about all the hoaxes, all the ballot manipulation, all of the many things that took place, so many things that took place. Forget all of that. Much of this stuff was not approved by the state legislatures, and in the Constitution it has to be. So just if you look at that, it's too bad that Mike Pence didn't go back, because I think you would have had a much different result had Mike Pence gone. He could have said, I'm sorry, but this was not approved by the state legislature, and according to the Constitution, it has to be. And by that time, as you know, some of those legislatures, if you look at Arizona, if you look at Georgia, if you look at Pennsylvania, and you could go beyond that. I think if you look at Wisconsin, you look at Michigan, some of those legislatures were getting, and legislators were getting a good, they were saying, wow, this is something. I mean, you had cases where you had more votes.
We're just going to name a bunch of states, and someone in one of those states somewhere said, wow. Anyway, next subject.
You had people voting. Think of it. You had more votes than you had people voting. So Mike Pence could have sent it back and said, I'm sorry, but you'll have to check this out. So
Mike
of those
Pence.
votes were gotten, and some very late in the process. Some of those votes, some of those decisions that were made just before the election. And as you know, I think you agree with this, Lisa, it has to go through the legislature. The state legislatures have to approve all of these rules and regulations that they were putting in. You can't do it with a local judge. You can't do it with a politician, with a local politician. It was up to the state legislatures. They couldn't get them to approve. They were Republican. They couldn't get them to approve it, so they just did it themselves. That's a total violation of the Constitution, and the Supreme Court didn't want to hear it. They didn't rule on the facts. They ruled on things like no standing process.
No standing? What?
They should be ashamed of themselves. And you know what's going to be interesting? It's ironic, because it could be court packing, and because of their ruling not to do an overturn, and by the way, all of the areas that I'm talking about were election changing. It's not like, 12 votes were affected. No, far more. You know, I was very close to all this.
11,780.
Far more votes than we needed. Far more. Not even close.
But it's also H.R. 1, because a lot of the frustrations you have with the mail-in balloting and, the fact that ballots were still being counted after Election Day, that would essentially be codified into law. If H.R. 1 passed, it would make it very, very difficult for Republicans to win elections moving forward. I mean, how serious should Republicans be taking H.R. 1 as Democrats try to push it through Congress?
Well, I think we need better leadership than Mitch McConnell, and stronger leadership. I mean, he can't rein in his own people. We have the Mitt Romneys of the world, and the Ben Sasses of the world.
Of the world. I love that, of the world. The Mitt Romneys of the world. Like, what? Like, yeah, there's someone in fucking Turkey that's just like Mitt Romney. There's someone in fucking St. Petersburg that's just chilling like Mitt Romney. Like, yeah, it's the Mitt Romneys. They're all over the world. It's like, what?
People that are good. He's got to be able to rein them in. So we need better than Mitch McConnell. And, you really do. This is big stuff. And now they knock out the filibuster. It's going to be a real problem. I mean, they knock out the filibuster, they're going to have a free-for-all. And I told Mitch McConnell from almost the first day, I said, look, The first thing they're going to do is knock out the filibuster. So if they're going to knock it out, maybe we should and get everything that we want. He said they'll never knock it out. It'll never happen. They'll never do it. They don't want to do it. I said they're going to do it. If they ever get a chance, they'll do it. And he actually now has admitted that I was right. It's too bad.
You know, I go back to what you said during the week of the RNC convention. And during your speech, I thought it was one of the best quotes I've heard from you. You said that for 47 years, Joe Biden has been hugging, kissing union workers, taking their donations, and then going back to Washington.
I wish Joe Biden was hugging and kissing union workers. I wish, but go on.
In D.C. and voting to send their jobs back to China and other foreign lands. And it's only been a few weeks.
What?
And that's essentially what's already happened. And we saw the cancellation of the Keystone Pipeline. He's nuked construction along the southern border. He's not moving forward with certain oil and gas sale releases. The list goes on in some of these energy policies that is going to do exactly like what you said. But, my question on all this is, are the Bidens bought and paid for by China?
Yes, but beyond bought and paid for, this is not what he campaigned on. He never thought, this is more radical, what he's doing. And I don't even think it's him. I think it's the cabal. This is more radical than anything.
The cabal, he's dropping Q drops. Donald Trump is dropping Q drops live on stream. The cabal, dude. The Q people love that word. They refer to the deep state, fucking Democrats or whatever as the cabal. He's going in. Let's go.
But beyond bought and paid for, this is not what he campaigned on. He never thought, this is more radical, what he's doing. And I don't even think it's him. I think it's the cabal. This is more radical than anything that he campaigned on. But this is more radical than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders never dreamt that they were going to be approving things like they're approving. And it's unbelievable what's happening. This is far more than Bernie Sanders ever thought was possible.
An example?
And it's disgraceful.
What is farther?
And
what's the example? What's going on?
But what about all those jobs lost, too? I mean, you've got tens of thousands of jobs for the Keystone Pipeline loss. I mean, we're going to see a lot more energy jobs go away. And you've got people like John Kerry who are basically learn to build solar panels, which is essentially telling them, to learn to code. I mean, what's your message to a lot of those American workers who are suffering right now or worried about the future of their jobs?
Well, when Biden campaigned, I know everything he said, and we had debates, and the debates were very good. And
we had the debates, and the debates were very good.
And he never talked about any of this. He never talked about closing the Keystone. He didn't. I wouldn't say he said he was going to keep it. But he certainly didn't indicate that he was going to, in his almost first
Serious question, what's the best political figure right now in the U.S.? Donald Trump?
Immediately get rid of.
He's the most entertaining by a landslide.
Jobs, not 8,000 jobs. If you look at it, it's probably even more than that. But he never talked about the Keystone Pipeline that he was going to close up. How can you do a thing like this? It was passed. It went through Congress.
How could you do
all sorts of things happened. And what about the company? When they talk about all of the people that are devastated, some company put up billions and billions of dollars. The thing is half built, and then all of a sudden they come along and they say we're going to close it down. People invested all of their money following the pipeline. They opened businesses. They bought little hotels for the people to stay in, and they fixed them. And then all of a sudden, in one day, it's gone. But he never said that during the campaign. On energy, he was pretty positive on energy. And now we're not going to be energy independent in another few months based on what he's doing. Gas prices are going through the roof. He never talked about this stuff. He never said, this is far more radical than what he was talking about. This is more radical.
Why do they care about the goddamn pipeline so much? There's 10 people involved with the fucking pipeline. Who cares, dude? How about the thousands of people that, I don't know, can't work because of the pandemic that you told us wasn't real for several months while you were telling Bob Woodward and secret tapes that it was real, and then he wrote a book about it? How about, I don't know, the hundreds of thousands of people that are dead? How about their families? I don't know, how about all of the mom and pop shops that were sent out of business because the CARES Act didn't give them PPP loans? What about all of, the pipeline. 10 people lost their job, bro. Oops.
Anything Bernie Sanders ever thought was possible. It's crazy.
Well, now raising taxes too. Now he's going to raise. He's
at a record. Yeah, record level.
More from President Trump after this.
Wait, what? That was like a really bad transition.
Bernie Sanders ever thought was possible. It's crazy.
Well, now raising taxes too. I mean, now he's going to raise. He's
at a record level.
More from President Trump after this.
That was like really awkward. What was that? There's a commercial break, but no commercial.
Just out of curiosity,
That's
so
it. What?
You wrote a letter to Joe Biden. He said it was very generous. What did you say to him in that letter?
Well, I don't want to say that's, perhaps up to him, and I guess he said he wouldn't do it without my approval. But basically, I wish him luck, and, it was a couple of pages long, and it was from the heart, because I want to see him do well. Look, he's there. It was a rigged election. An election, I would never concede. And by the way, Hillary Clinton said he should never concede. Hillary Clinton, the things she said were so horrible. But Hillary Clinton made statements that were just absolutely
seriously,
horrible.
So
but you know what? He's there, and I wanted to do well. But
raw peppers
that doesn't
and hot
include
sauce.
closing up the Keystone Pipeline, which, by the way, environmentally is much better than having them on trains. But his friend and supporter Warren Buffett has trains. Nobody ever talks about that. Warren Buffett has trains, and he doesn't want to see a pipeline. His train business is dead going to the Gulf, okay? Dead. I mean, think of that. Does anybody... I've never even heard that point brought up. But he's one of his big supporters, liberal guy, and his trains, his railroad, would be devastated with the pipeline. So all of a sudden it's cut. Now, I don't know if he'd cut it for that reason, but it couldn't be for environmental reasons, because a pipeline is much better than trucks and trains by far. It's also much safer. When you have an explosion, when you have a truck goes wrong, when you have a train goes wrong, it's devastation. So, but he never talked about closing the pipeline. He never talked about the kinds of things on the Second Amendment that they're talking about. Wait till you see what they do to the Second Amendment. They're going to devastate the Second Amendment.
I can upload them.
So
if
the
you
Republicans have to get a lot tougher.
Don't be frightened,
and
my
they have
dear,
to get a
in the
lot
chat.
smarter. But you have a lot of great ones, and I think we're going to do very well in 22, and I think we're going to do very well in 24.
I can't imagine listening to Donald Trump speak and then going like, yup, He hasn't mentioned a single policy other than I hate immigrants. That's it. That's the only policy he's mentioned. Everything else is just like fucking fantasy world fan fiction. It's just writing a storybook. I don't understand.
So too, I mean, I pray, because we can't deal with former years of this and not have Republicans win the midterm elections, particularly as you're talking about. They're talking about going after the Second Amendment. They're talking about H.R. 1 and codifying all the concerns that Republicans had with the 2020 midterm elections, or the 2020 general election, into law. I mean, they're talking about things that are fundamentally transforming the United States. So it's very concerning. We appreciate the role you're playing in the midterm elections, because that is incredibly important.
We've got to fight like hell. These are very bad people in many cases. It's hard to say, but these are very bad people. And they're doing horrible things to our country, whether it's the border or energy or the Second Amendment. A lot of bad things are happening, and we have to stop them. And to stop them, we have to be very smart, and we have to be tough. They're vicious. They will do things that the Republicans don't even think about doing. It's just unbelievable. You look at all the impeachment nonsense. It was all nonsense. And now if you look at what they used what happened in Georgia as part of their impeachment, and that turned out to be a scam. You saw that the other day, where they put in language, where they have language that didn't even exist.
What?
Okay, they were quoting me, and it turned out, and they tried to get rid of the tape, which is obstruction of justice.
What?
They tried to get rid of the tape, and some very good person said, "Excuse me, you can't do that. Here's the tape." They found it in the waste paper basket. Okay, in the waste basket they call it.
Wait, does he think that people are in 1975 and have like a literal tape recorder? Wait, whoa. The tape? Like, is this 1982? You bring out the big thing and you press down on the record button? What fucking tape is he... What?
And, I mean, think of it. So we have to be very, very smart.
The waste paper basket.
Strong, but they're vicious. There's no question about it. They're vicious people.
Are you going to sue the Washington Post?
They really did give a very powerful statement that it didn't take place. So in one way, I respect that they did it. I was actually surprised that they did it. I guess pressure was put on them pretty strongly, but they said, we have to go public with this. They were given false information from the people that run the elections. Think of that in Georgia. I mean, Georgia's a mess. Georgia, the elections were a mess, but they were given this. This came out of the people that run the elections. The office of the people that run the elections, and then they tried to throw the tape away. It was a phony tape. It never took place. Think of that. So in one way, I respect the Washington Post for posting it, for changing it. I think, in one way, I really do. I respect it. It shouldn't have happened in the first place, but I respect that they were willing to, do whatever they had to do.
What kind of dumb motherfucker, by the way, puts something in the recycle bin and then doesn't empty the recycle bin immediately? Who is this mysterious dumb fuck who's got this tape in the waste paper basket? What the fuck is he talking about, dude? And then the tape itself is not good for him. What is he talking about? Seriously, what is he talking about?
It was a very strong statement they put up. I respect that.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think anyone has been lied about more than you have by the media. I mean, the media, even the Charlottesville lie, I mean, that went on for years. And if anyone, I got so frustrated because if anyone just read the transcript, you were clearly denouncing the KKK and the neo-Nazis. You were saying they were terrible people. You were, you condemned them. I mean, you absolutely condemned them, but that lie went on for years.
They should do retractions like they did here. They should do retractions for that. Nobody does. I still hear that about Charlottesville. And all you had to do is listen to the next sentence. If you listen one more sentence, you'd see that what I said was, as I say all the time, it was perfect, okay? But what I said was absolutely perfect.
The idea that there were just some people caught in the crowd. They had tiki torches and they were chanting "Jews will not replace us," and then my grandma just thought it was a power walking course or something. What the fuck? That's the thing that's bizarre. It's not that he didn't condemn the white supremacists, right? It's that he made space for there to be people who are white supremacists and neo-Nazis to pretend not to be. No, sorry, my grandma just thought that that was the way to bingo or something. She just got lost in the fight. She liked the pretty colors on the tiki torches. She thought it was bingo night. She thought that they were just gonna who is this mythical person that was walking through Charlottesville with tiki torches chanting "Jews will not replace us"? Was someone in the back of the crowd going maybe they will replace us actually? Who is this magical person?
Perfect. And it was an absolute disgrace. That whole Charlottesville thing, and how they tried to pin false statements to me, but that was what happened in Georgia. But the retraction from the Washington Post was the strongest retraction I've ever seen from them, and so in that respect, I appreciate that. What they should do now is they should find out who gave it. They do know that, by the way, who made the statement, because the statement that they printed was fraudulent. It was fraudulent. And they should also reveal who found the tape, because the people that found the tape, that was a terrific thing that they did. Who would think that they would find the tape, listen to the tape, and report it? They did a great service to the country.
It's nice to see someone finally telling the truth there. But, correct me if I'm wrong. With Charlottesville, what you're talking about is you were saying that, there were people that were there who just didn't want to see the statue taken down, because what you had warned previously is that, then it's going to be George Washington, then it's going to be Abraham Lincoln, then we go down this sort of slippery slope of canceling our history and sort of destruction of our history. But that's what we're witnessing today, and it's not...
Again, do we only record history in the terms of statues, or do we have books? Last time I checked, we have the internet. What the fuck? And we need statues for this shit?
Just, our history. It's things like Dr. Seuss. It's taking a sledgehammer to, all these different things. And, where does this all go with where we are today?
I stopped it. I took an old law that hadn't been used in many, many decades, and I modernized it, brought it up, and signed it. And once I did that, people stopped ripping down statues, federal statues. But in Charlottesville, they were there. Many people were there to stop the taking down of a magnificent statue of Robert E. Lee, and they were there for that reason. And they ultimately it came down.
So who was Robert E. Lee again? Does anyone want to remind us who Robert E. Lee is? Does anyone know? Can anyone just refresh my memory? A magnificent statue of who?
It's terrible. Now you have Dr. Seuss and you have many other things. This is really, you're taking the soul away from our country. And, there were some nasty things in the past, but you learn from the bad things and the nasty things and things that were done wrong. You learn. That's part of history. You learn. And if you're not going to hear about it, you're not going to learn, and you'll make the same mistake again. But that whole Charlottesville, and they still say it about me, oh, Charlottesville. If they take a look at the next sentence, meaning of a tape, I assume, but they take a look at it was perfect, and they all know it. But they're very dishonest people. Look, the media has been exposed as being unbelievably corrupt and dishonest, and you've done your job. I mean, I know where you're coming, and it takes courage to do what you do. And frankly, right. Fox was much different in 2016 than they were in 2020. Fox was like a different world. So I say that was one of the biggest differences. And yet, I got almost 75 million from 63 million. And I went up, somebody said, well, it's too bad. Well, we did much better in the second election than we did in the first election. Much better in every way. If you look at with African American, with Asian American, with women,
we did it in every way. If you look at African American, what? Like,
somebody said,
the grammar here is.
Well, we did much better in the second election than we did in the first election. Much better in every way. If you look at with African American, with Asian American, with women, with Hispanic, we did much better in every single way. And
with Hispanic.
It was a rigged election, and that's a shame.
Well, it's almost as if, I kind of feel, I sort of question, it's almost as we're not really free anymore as a country. I mean, you go back over the past few months, you have states like New York and California.
Reminder, Donald Trump raised the legal age of smoking tobacco from 18 to 21. There are 18, 19, and 20-year-olds that could previously purchase tobacco products that now cannot purchase tobacco products. You need to be 21 years of age in order to purchase tobacco products in the United States of America. Right? Word about our freedom. Donald Trump signed a bill that banned flavored vape products. Freedom? What about our freedom? So what is this, like, we don't have freedom anymore. Like, you can't even be 19 and smoke a cigarette in Donald Trump's America anymore? And you're bitching about freedom on your fucking podcast?
California, still locked down. We have this censorship that exists in the media. You've got big tech deplatforming people. We all saw what happened to Parler. What happened to you as well. I mean, are we still a free society with all of this stuff going on?
No, we don't have.
What did happen to Parler? All right, Parler was using someone else's servers instead of, I don't know, making their own servers because they're lazy. Instead of learning to code, right? They used someone else's servers, and then that private business, the someone else said, I don't want to do business with you, and then they stopped. How is that? What? Who's they?
Thing, certainly.
Who did what to
You don't have freedom of the press. The big tech has gone wild. And I'm able to get the word out because, I'm able to get it, and then everybody picks it up, including big tech, which is sort of interesting. But other people, when they get canceled, they don't have that. They can't put out a press release that, everybody picks up. It doesn't work that way. No, you don't have it anymore. You don't have freedom of the press is absolutely gone. And the press is just very dishonest. You see the way they cover the border. They basically don't like talking about the border because it's horrible what's happened on the border. But they don't want to talk about the border. They're not going to talk about the border.
They do,
and other things, plenty of other things.
I see them talk about it all the time.
But, it's really a terrible thing. It's never happened to this extent ever before. Never happened.
I think they hate you so much? So I think it's because Republicans in the past sort of accepted the premise of questions being asked to them by the media. They sort of accepted the narrative. Like, for instance, with Mitt Romney, he gets asked about women and, you know, if he supports women or whatever. And his response is, oh, I have a binder full of them, right? You could ask that question. You're like, next, that's a dumb question. Or the first interview you did, I think it was with ABC, and they asked you about the Women's March. And you were like, oh, well, March for Life is coming up, but you don't ask about that. And David Muir's face dropped because they were so used to Republicans just accepting, you know, these BS premises that were being put in front of them, but you rejected them. You didn't play the media's game, and that's why I think they don't like you.
But a lot of people do, and, you know, it's really politics through common sense, because a lot of people say, are you a conservative? Are you... What? You know what it is? It's common sense. A lot of it is common sense, like the wall.
It's just common sense.
You know, it's interesting. The Democrats stick together. Republicans don't. You know, I said, where is their Romney? Where is their Little Ben Sass? Where are these people in the
Little Ben Sass?
Manchin always comes through for them. You know, he's going to come through again. You just watch. I've watched it for a long time with him. You know, get some publicity, and then he ends up coming through.
I love how he's actually just exposing Joe Manchin.
They stick together. They're smart and they're vicious.
Charlie, I don't know who Lisa Booth is. I've never heard of her.
Sanctuary cities, don't build the wall. So their policies are so bad that it hurts them. Now, if they had better policy, they'd be tougher, because they do stick together better than the Republicans. But that's because the Republicans need better leadership. They need stronger leadership.
Right, Mr. President, I know you've got, I don't want to take up much more of your time. I know you've got a busy day, but it is such an honor to talk to you. You are welcome here anytime. I would love to have you back on the podcast, and it is beyond an honor to have you as my very first guest on this podcast. So I just want to thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. And Lisa, on behalf of a lot of people, thank you for everything. Your voice has been incredible. It's been strong. And you're definitely not afraid, and that's something that we need. So we need more of that.
That's such a good point, Montauk in the chat. Does anyone get the feeling that Booth is inserting recorded questions over Trump's rambling? They don't say... I feel that too, especially because earlier I mentioned the editing was really bad in some spot. I feel like that's probably true. Like, the guy's just, like, kind of having incoherent rambling, and they're like... so we accidentally recorded your rambling fucking like, whatever it is, Trump. Do you want to give it to this bitch? She's doing a podcast tomorrow. Do you just want to give it to her? She'll pretend to have a conversation. You record, like, a little afterward. Do you just want to pretend? Like, yeah, sure. That's what this feels like to me. It's just like, what?
And it's great to do your first show, and you're going to have many. You're going to do very well. Because you're somebody that people respect greatly. Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you, sir. That means the world coming from you. I really appreciate it.
Oh God, the fucking music. Oh God, turn it off.
And before we go, I just want to thank...
Oh Lord, I'm not listening to that. Anyway, that was really fun. There might be clippable moments. I don't know, maybe you can tell me. I thought that there were quite a few good ones. The Mitt Romneys of the world, I thought that was really funny. Fucking bad hombres, and how he was, like, really trying hard not to... He was trying hard to qualify that one. It's like, I love to say this. This is something I love to say. Really fucking funny. Anyway, that's my content for today. Have fun watching whatever the fuck you weirdos watch after my show. If y'all want me to do 10:30 tomorrow as well, let me know in the comments section to this video. So wait for the stream to end, and then go scroll down and post a comment if you want 10:30 versus 10. I'm doing slightly shorter shows this week because I've got some family over, so. But anyway, that was really funny, and I don't know who Lisa Booth is, and I'm happy to never hear from her again. But I have to pee, so I'm probably going to skedaddle. I'd like to say thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great day, and that's it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to tweet at me, join my Discord, send me a message, and I'll see y'all very shortly. Thank you.
Watch Hillary examine the terrain. Watch a campaign with the man Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine in the membrane. Tim Kaine in the rain.
Running against the worst candidate in the history of presidential politics puts pressure on me. Can you imagine if I lose my whole life? What am I going to do? I'm going to say, I lost to the worst candidate in the history of politics. I'm not going to feel so good. Maybe I'll have to leave the country. I don't know.
I'm about to be 34 and I have no family.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Oh, seriously, hot sauce. I've been eating a lot of hot sauce, a lot of raw peppers and hot sauce.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys. And I did. And back in those days, you show how things had changed. One of the things you had to use, if you used pomade in your hair, you had to wear a baby cap. And so he was up on the board, wouldn't listen to me. I said, hey, Esther, you, off the board, or I'll come up and drag you off. Well, he came off, and he said, I'll meet you outside. My car, these were all public housing behind it. My car, there was a gate out here. I parked my car outside the gate. And he said, I'll be waiting for you. He was waiting for 3 guys in straight racing. Not a joke. There's a guy named Bill Wright, Mouse, the only white guy, and he did all the pulls. He was the mechanic. And I said, what am I going to do? He said, come down here in the basement where the mechanics, where all the pull there is. You know the chain, there used to be a chain that went across the deep end. And he cut off a 6-foot length of chain. He pulled up and said, you walk out with that chain. Unbelievable. And you walk to the car and say, you may cut me, man, but I'm going to wrap this chain around your head.
And where it should have stopped is at the deal standpoint, when they thought about it. Bad deal should have never been thought of.